I stood at the iron gates of St. Catherine's Home for Girls, for the last time my entire life compressed into a canvas duffel bag that had seen better days. 18 years. That's how long these walls had been my world. 18 years of believing the same terrible truth: nobody wanted me. Nobody ever had. The September morning was cold, the kind of cold that seeps into your bones and settles there. I pulled my thin jacket tighter, feeling the weight of $73.50 in my pocket. Every penny I'd saved from summer jobs, cleaning the chapel, scrubbing floors, anything that would let me put away a few dollars here and there. It wasn't much, but it was mine. Behind me, the heavy door clicked shut with a finality that made my chest tighten. Sister Margaret had said goodbye at breakfast, her weathered hand squeezing mine once before she turned away. She'd been kind in her way. They all had. But kindness isn't family. Kindness isn't someone choosing you, wanting you, loving you enough to fight for you. I was alone. I had always been alone. The bus station was 3 blocks away. I walked slowly, taking in the streets of Portland, Maine, as if seeing them for the first time. Maybe I was. For 18 years, I'd only seen the city from behind the fence during supervised outings, always in a line with the other girls, always returning to those same walls by sunset. Now, the world stretched open before me, vast and terrifying, and mine to navigate. I had a plan, small as it was: take the bus to Boston, find a cheap room, look for work, maybe night classes eventually, build something from nothing, because nothing was all I had. Upon them. The phone call came as I stood in line at the Greyhound counter, my hand clutching the crumpled bills, mentally calculating if I had enough for a ticket plus a few meals. The number was unknown. I almost didn't answer. But something, some instinct I couldn't name, made me swipe to accept. Miss Whitlock. The voice was male, older, with the careful diction of someone used to speaking in courtrooms. Yes, my heart hammered. Nobody called me. Nobody had this number except the social services office, and they'd signed off on my file 3 days ago. My name is Fletcher Callahan. I'm an attorney with Callahan and Partners. I've been trying to reach you regarding the estate of Vivian Whitlock. The world seemed to tilt. I stepped out of line, moving toward the wall, pressing my back against the cold concrete to steady myself. I don't know anyone named Vivian. There was a pause. When he spoke again, his voice was gentler. She was your grandmother, Miss Whitlock, your father's mother. She passed away 2 weeks ago. The words made no sense. They were sounds without meaning, syllables in the wrong order. I don't have a grandmother. I don't have anyone. I understand this is a shock. His voice remained patient, professional. Your grandmother spent the last 18 years searching for you. She left you her entire estate. Miss Whitlock, I need you to come to Maine, to Harlow Bay. There are papers to sign, and there are things you need to see. Harlow Bay, the name meant nothing to me. Everything meant nothing to me. The hand holding my phone trembled. How much? The question came out harsh, pragmatic. If this was real, I needed to know. $73 wouldn't last long. The estate includes 214 acres of coastal property, a house, and $31,700 in savings accounts. All in your name now. I slid down the wall until I was sitting on the dirty bus station floor, my duffel beside me, my free hand pressed against my mouth. It had to be a mistake, a scam, some cruel joke the universe was playing. Why? My voice cracked. Why didn't she find me? The pause that followed was heavy with something I couldn't identify. She tried, Miss Whitlock. God knows she tried. Come to Harlow Bay. Let me explain in person. You deserve the truth. Cheyenne. The bus ride took 5 hours. 5 hours of landscape blurring past the window of my mind, spinning in circles, trying to make sense of what was happening. I read the text message he'd sent 3 times. An address, a time, tomorrow at 10. I'd spent 8 of my precious dollars on the ticket to Harlow Bay. The bus dropped me at a tiny station that was little more than a bench and a faded sign. The town beyond was exactly what you'd imagine when someone said, small coastal Maine village. Weathered buildings, paint peeling from salt and wind. A diner with a flickering neon sign. A general store with postcards fading in the window. 891 people according to the sign at the town limits. Barely a town at all. I'd slept in the station waiting room that night, my duffel as a pillow, jerking awake every time someone passed by. At 9:30 the next morning, I walked to the address Fletcher Callahan had given me. The law office was above the post office, accessed by a narrow staircase that creaked under my feet. The door had his name in gold lettering that was starting to flake. He was exactly what his voice had suggested. 70, maybe 71, with silver hair combed carefully and eyes that had seen a lot of life. He wore a cardigan instead of a suit jacket. The office smelled like old books and coffee. When I walked in, he stood slowly and I watched something move across his face. Recognition, sadness, something else I couldn't name. "You have her eyes," he said quietly. "Vivian's eyes. I'm sorry. Please sit." I sat in the chair across from his desk, still clutching my duffel, ready to run if this turned into something dangerous or strange. He poured me coffee without asking, pushed it across the desk with a gentleness that made my throat ache. "I've been your grandmother's attorney for 43 years, he began. "I've known your family since before you were born. What I'm about to tell you is going to be difficult to hear." I wrapped my hands around the coffee cup, letting the warmth anchor me. He opened a folder but didn't look at it. He knew what it said by heart. "Your mother was Dr. Elena Whitlock, a brilliant woman, a neurologist. She worked for a biotech research company called Meridian. You were born in January of 2006. 6 months later, your mother died." The words hit like stones, each one landing heavy. "They said it was a boating accident. Your mother went out alone one evening. Her boat was found capsized the next morning. But your grandmother never believed it. Elena had been planning to report something about illegal experiments at Meridian. And then conveniently, she was dead." A tremor ran through me. I set down the coffee cup before I could drop it. "You were in the hospital that night, just a routine checkup for a mild fever. By morning, you were gone, simply vanished. The hospital had no record of your discharge. Security footage had been erased. It was as if you'd never been there at all." His hands gripped the edge of his desk, knuckles white. "Vivian spent every dollar she had trying to find you. She hired private investigators. She put ads in newspapers across the country. She contacted every child welfare office, every orphanage, every foster system in America. But your records had been altered, erased. Someone with power and resources had made you disappear. Why?" The word came out as barely a whisper. "Because you were a witness, or they thought you might be. You were 6 months old, you couldn't possibly remember anything, but whoever killed your mother was being thorough." He slid a photograph across the desk. A woman with dark hair and my eyes holding a baby wrapped in a yellow blanket, both of them smiling at the camera, the ocean behind them. I picked it up, my fingers trembling against the glossy paper. Stared at a stranger who was my mother, at a baby who was me. "Vivian never gave up," Fletcher said. "Not for 18 years. She always believed she'd find you, that somehow you'd come home. But she didn't find me." The bitterness in my voice surprised me. "She died without finding me." "Yes," he paused. "But she left you everything. The house, the land, the money, and something else, something she wanted you to have more than anything." He stood and moved to a filing cabinet and returned with a wooden box, cedar old and worn smooth. "She left you this." I didn't want to touch it, didn't want to open it and find more loss inside, but I did. Inside were letters, hundreds of them, stacked, carefully bound with faded ribbon, each one in a cream-colored envelope, addressed in careful handwriting. "To Miss Sarah Whitlock." Every single one had a red stamp across it. "Address unknown, return to sender." 263, Fletcher said quietly. "One for every birthday, every Christmas, every Easter for 18 years. She never stopped writing to you, even when they kept coming back, even when there was no address to send them to. She wrote them anyway." I pulled one from the stack. The postmark was dated 8 years ago, my 10th birthday. I opened it. The paper was thin, the handwriting careful and slanted. Blue ink that had faded slightly with time. "My dearest Sarah, today you turn 10. Double digits, as your mother would have said. I imagine you tall now. I imagine you laughing. I imagine you loved. I am 67 years old. My hands shake more each year. My eyesight fails. But I write these letters in the hope that someday, somehow they will reach you. I have not given up searching. I will never give up. Even if I cannot find you in this life, I want you to know that you were loved. Desperately. Completely. Your mother, Elena, loved you more than breath. I love you more than words can hold. We did not abandon you, sweet girl. We were stolen from each other. But love does not end. Love persists. Happy birthday, my darling. Wherever you are. All my love, Grandmother Vivian." The sob that tore from my chest was violent, unexpected. I doubled over in the chair, the letter clutched against my heart, and wept like I was breaking apart. Fletcher said nothing, just pushed a box of tissues across the desk and let me cry. When I could finally breathe again when the storm had passed, I looked up at him with swollen eyes. I want to see the house. Of course, I'll drive you. Harlow Bay disappeared behind us as we drove north along the coastal road. The ocean stretched gray and endless to our right, waves crashing against black rocks with a fury that matched something inside my chest. The house has been empty since Vivian passed, Fletcher said, hands steady on the wheel. I've had someone checking on it weekly, making sure everything's secure. But it will need work. It's old. It's been through a lot of winters. I didn't care. I didn't care if the roof leaked or the floors were rotten. It was mine. The first thing in my entire life that was actually mine. We turned onto a private drive marked by a weathered post. The road was rough gravel crunching under the tires. Trees pressed in on both sides, pine and birch, their branches forming a tunnel. And then the trees opened up, and there it was. Black-tied house. I'd spent 18 years in institutional buildings. Gray walls, fluorescent lights, everything built for function and nothing for beauty. This house was the opposite of everything I'd ever known. It stood 3 stories tall, white clapboard with a steep blue-gray roof that looked like ocean waves frozen in wood. A wraparound porch faced the sea railings worn smooth by decades of salt wind. The shutters were painted the same blue-gray, some hanging slightly askew. Behind it, maybe 50 yards away, stood a red barn, not for animals. For boats, Fletcher explained. A boathouse, weathered and beautiful in its decay. Beyond everything was the ocean, vast and wild and impossibly blue, despite the gray sky. She bought this property 50 years ago, Fletcher said quietly. She and your grandfather raised your father here. He loved this place. Your mother fell in love with it the first time she saw it. And you took your first steps on that porch. The air left my lungs. Words died in my throat. The keys. He handed me a ring with 3 brass keys, old and heavy. The house is yours, Sarah. Everything here is yours. I climbed out of the car slowly, my feet touching gravel that was somehow mine. Walked toward the porch steps, each one creaking under my weight. The front door was solid oak, the wood dark with age. The key turned smoothly in the lock as if it had been waiting for this moment. The door swung open. Inside was silence, deep and heavy and waiting. I stepped across the threshold. The entry hall had hardwood floors, worn but beautiful. A staircase climbed to my right, the banister smooth and curved. To my left, a living room with a stone fireplace large enough to stand in. Furniture covered in white sheets like ghosts. Straight ahead, a kitchen with yellow walls and white cabinets. A farmhouse sink under a window that looked out over wild grass down to the ocean. Everything was frozen, preserved, waiting. I moved through the rooms like I was walking through a dream. The dining room with a table that could seat 10. The library with built-in shelves floor to ceiling filled with books. A sunroom at the back, windows on 3 sides. Wicker furniture and dead plants in pots. Fletcher followed silently, letting me explore. Upstairs were 4 bedrooms. 3 were clearly guest rooms, the beds made with quilts, the furniture simple. The 4th was different. The door was partially open. I pushed it wider. It was a child's room. My room. The walls were pale yellow. The bed was small, made for a child with a handmade quilt in patterns of stars. A rocking chair sat in the corner. Shelves held toys, books, a porcelain doll with a china face. On the dresser was a silver-framed photograph. I crossed the room, picked it up. A baby, maybe 18 months old, sitting on the porch downstairs. Dark hair and wispy curls. Brown eyes looking directly at the camera. A smile that showed 2 tiny teeth. I knew that face. Had seen it in mirrors my whole life. It was me. This room had been waiting for me. Preserved exactly as it was the day I disappeared. For 18 years, this room had been here empty, hoping I'd come home. I set the photograph down carefully and opened the closet. Little dresses hung inside. Shoes lined up on the floor. A coat with toggles. And on the top shelf pushed to the back was a wooden box. I pulled it down. Cedar like the one in Fletcher's office, but smaller. Personal. I knew before I opened it what I'd find. The letters. All 263 of them. They'd been here all along. Waiting in this room, in this house. While I grew up 3 hours away, alone and unwanted, they'd been here. Proof that someone had loved me. Proof that I'd mattered. I sank onto the floor, my back against the small bed, and pulled the first letter from the box. My dearest Sarah, today is your first birthday. You are walking now. You say mama and Gigi, your word for grandmother. You laugh when the waves crash on the rocks. But you are not here. You have been gone for 6 months. I do not know where you are. I do not know if you are safe, if you are loved, if you are even alive. But I have to believe. I have to hope. So I write this letter as I will write one every year, every holiday, every moment I miss you. Someday, somehow, I will find you, or you will find your way home. And when you do, you will know that you were never unloved, never forgotten, never abandoned. Happy birthday, my precious girl. All my love, Grandmother Vivian. The date was January 15th, 2007. The stamp across it, brutal in its red ink, address unknown. Returned to sender. I opened another. My 5th birthday. Dearest Sarah, you are 5 today. I imagine you starting school. I imagine you making friends, learning to read, asking 1,000 questions about everything. I have hired another investigator, the 7th one. He says he has leads. I choose to believe him, though hope has hurt me before. I refuse to believe you are gone. A grandmother knows. Something in my heart tells me you are alive somewhere growing up without us. And that is a grief I cannot name. But I will find you, or you will find me. I have faith in that, even when I have faith in nothing else. Happy birthday, sweet girl. Love, Gigi. Another. My 12th birthday. My dear Sarah, 12 years old today. Becoming a young woman now, I imagine. Do you know you have my eyes, your mother's smile, your grandfather's stubborn determination? I am 73. My hands shake when I write. My doctor says I should rest more. But I cannot rest, cannot stop. Every day I wake and think today. Today might be the day I find her. The investigator found nothing. Again, the trail is cold, has been cold for 12 years. But I will not stop looking. I love you, Sarah. Wherever you are, whoever has you. I love you. Grandmother Vivian, I read them all, every single one. Sat on that floor for 3 hours while the afternoon light faded and the room grew dark, reading the chronicle of a woman's unending love and unending grief. She'd never stopped, never given up, even when every letter came back, even when the investigators found nothing, even when hope must have seemed impossible. She'd loved me. For 18 years, while I believed nobody wanted me, she'd been here writing these letters, searching for me, refusing to let me disappear. When I finally emerged from the room, my face swollen from crying, Fletcher was in the kitchen making tea. I read them, I said. My voice was hoarse. All of them. Everyone. He nodded slowly, poured 2 cups, handed me one. She never gave up on you, Sarah. I want you to know that. In 43 years, I never saw anyone fight harder for anything than Vivian fought to find you. Who took me? The question burned. Who erased my records? Who made me disappear? His expression darkened. We don't know for certain, but Vivian had her suspicions. The man who ran Meridian Biotech where your mother worked, Dr. Vincent Carver. She believed he was responsible for your mother's death and for your disappearance. Where is he now? Still in Harlow Bay. He bought a house here about 10 years ago, retired supposedly. Lives very comfortably on his pension and investments. The rage that flooded through me was clean and sharp. He killed my mother. He took me from my grandmother. He let her search for 18 years knowing exactly where I was. And he's just living here free. Fletcher's jaw tightened. Vivian tried to prove it. Spent the last decade of her life trying to connect him to Elena's death, to your disappearance. But Carver is careful, rich, connected. She could never get enough evidence to make anything stick. But she kept trying, until the day she died. I set down my teacup carefully. I want to stay here, in this house. Can I do that? Is it really mine? It's really yours. The deed transferred to you the day Vivian passed. 214 acres, the house, the boathouse, everything. And the money in her accounts is yours to access whenever you need it. Then I'm staying. He studied me for a long moment. What are you planning, Sarah? I don't know yet. I looked around the kitchen at the house that had been waiting for me. But my grandmother spent 18 years fighting for me. The least I can do is finish what she started. Fletcher left as the sun was setting, making me promise to call if I needed anything. He'd arranged for the power and water to be turned on, had stocked the refrigerator with basics. He was a good man. One of the few I was starting to think. I stood on the porch as his car disappeared down the drive, listening to the ocean roar against the rocks. Alone in my house. My house. The concept was so foreign it felt like wearing someone else's clothes. I went back inside, locked the door, turned on lights in every room I passed. The house came alive with warm yellow light pushing back the darkness. In the kitchen, I made myself scrambled eggs and toast. sat at the table and ate slowly, looking out at the ocean turning black as night fell. Then I went back upstairs to the yellow room, my room. I pulled the quilt from the small bed, wrapped it around my shoulders, and sat in the rocking chair with the box of letters in my lap, and I read them again, from the beginning. 263 letters, 18 years of love, 18 years of searching, 18 years of refusing to give up. I thought about all the times I'd sat in St. Catherine's watching other girls get adopted, get fostered, get chosen. All the times I'd believed I was unlovable, unwanted. All along someone had been fighting for me. All along I'd been loved. The grief was enormous, an ocean of its own. For all the years lost. For the grandmother I'd never known. For the mother I couldn't remember. But underneath the grief was something else. Something hard and bright and burning. Rage. Someone had stolen my family from me, had let my grandmother search in vain for 18 years, had let me grow up alone and unwanted when I had a home waiting for me right here. Someone had done this deliberately, carefully, and they'd gotten away with it. I looked down at the letter in my hands, the last one, written 3 months before Vivian died. Dearest Sarah, I am 86 now. The doctor says my heart is failing. I do not have much time. I will die without seeing your face, without knowing if you are safe, without holding you one more time. But I want you to know if somehow these letters find you, if someday you come home, I never stopped loving you. Not for one single day. This house is yours. This land is yours. Everything I have is yours, not because of blood or obligation, but because you are my granddaughter and I love you. If you are reading this, then you found your way home, and that gives me peace. Be strong, sweet girl. Be brave. And know that you were loved every moment of your life, even when you did not know it. All my love forever, Grandmother Vivian. I folded the letter carefully, placed it back in the box with all the others. Tomorrow I would begin to understand what had happened. Tomorrow I would start asking questions. Tomorrow I would find out who Vincent Carver was and what he'd done. But tonight I sat in my room in my house, wrapped in a quilt my grandmother had made, and let myself believe the truth I'd never known. I was loved. I had always been loved. And now I was home. Outside the ocean roared. Inside the old house settled around me with creaks and whispers. I was 18 years old. I owned 214 acres of land I'd never seen. I had $31,000 I'd never expected. And I had 263 letters that proved someone had fought for me every single day. It wasn't enough, would never be enough to make up for what had been stolen. But it was a beginning. I pulled the quilt tighter and closed my eyes. Tomorrow, everything would change. Tomorrow, I would start fighting back. Tonight, I would sleep in my own bed in my own house for the first time in my life. And that at least was something. I woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the sound of waves crashing against rocks. For a moment, I couldn't remember where I was. Then it came rushing back. Black-tied house, my grandmother's letters, the truth about a family I'd never known. I'd fallen asleep in the rocking chair, the quilt still wrapped around me, the box of letters clutched against my chest. My neck ached. My eyes felt swollen from crying. But something else stirred inside me. Something harder than grief. Purpose. I showered in the bathroom down the hall using towels that smelled like cedar and dust. The water pressure was weak but hot. I dressed in the same clothes I'd worn yesterday, everything I owned still crammed in my duffel bag. Downstairs, I made coffee in a percolator that looked like it belonged in a museum. While it brewed, I stood at the kitchen window and studied the land that was now mine. Wild grass rolled down to the cliff edge. Beyond that, the Atlantic stretched endless and gray. The red boathouse sat off to my left, its paint peeling, one door hanging crooked. 214 acres. I couldn't even picture what that meant. The knock at the front door came just after 9. Sharp, authoritative, not friendly. I set down my coffee and moved through the house slowly, cautious. Through the front window, I could see a black BMW parked in the drive. Expensive, new, wrong for this place. The man on my porch wore a suit that probably cost more than everything I own. Charcoal gray, perfectly tailored. He was maybe 54, 55. Silver hairstyle precisely. A smile that didn't reach his eyes. I opened the door, but didn't step back to invite him in. Miss Whitlock. His voice was smooth, practiced. I'm Dr. Vincent Carver. I wanted to introduce myself. Welcome you to Harlow Bay. Every muscle in my body went rigid. This was him, the man my grandmother had suspected. The man who might have killed my mother. standing on my porch like he had every right to be here. I forced my expression to stay neutral, confused, young, and uncertain. Thank you, I made it a question. I was a colleague of your mother's many years ago. I was sorry to hear about Vivian's passing. She was quite a fixture in this community. Liar. My grandmother had spent the last decade trying to prove he was a murderer, but I smiled weakly and said nothing. I actually wanted to discuss a business matter with you. He shifted slightly, his smile widening. Your grandmother unfortunately had some outstanding debts, loans taken out for medical expenses. They were guaranteed against this property. A lump formed in my throat. What kind of debts? $420,000 to be precise. Owed to the Meridian Bioresearch Fund, a charitable organization I oversee. The foundation provided low-interest loans to families dealing with cancer treatment costs. He pulled a folder from his briefcase, held it out. I know this is overwhelming. You've just arrived. You're dealing with loss. So I'd like to make this simple for you. I'm prepared to purchase the property from you for $180,000. That would clear the debt and leave you with some money to start fresh somewhere else. Somewhere more appropriate for a young woman your age. I took the folder. The papers nearly slipped from my grip as my palms dampened with cold sweat. I don't understand. Of course not. It's complicated. But the simple version is this: you can sell me the property, walk away with cash and no debt. Or you can try to keep it default on the loan and lose everything through foreclosure anyway. Either way, the property transfers to me. I'm simply trying to make this easier for you. His smile never wavered, but his eyes were cold, calculating. How long do I have to decide? 72 hours, 3 days. After that, I'll have no choice but to begin foreclosure proceedings. He handed me a business card, heavy stock, embossed lettering. My number, call anytime. I really do want to help you, Sarah. May I call you Sarah? Sure. The word tasted like ash. Good. Think it over. But don't wait too long. These things move quickly once they start. He walked back to his BMW, climbed in smoothly, and drove away. I watched until he disappeared, then closed the door and locked it. I clutched the folder against my chest, breath coming in short gasps. I looked down at the business card. Dr. Vincent Carver, Director of Research Operations, Meridian Biotech. The same company my mother had worked for. The same company she'd been about to expose. And now he was here, trying to take my grandmother's house. My house. I needed help. But I didn't know anyone in Harlow Bay except Fletcher, and it was Sunday. His office would be closed. I grabbed my jacket and walked into town. Harrow's Diner sat on Main Street, a squat building with faded blue siding and a neon sign that flickered even in daylight. The kind of place that had been serving the same menu for 40 years. I pushed through the door. A bell chimed. Every head turned. The diner held maybe a dozen people. All of them looked at me. Really looked. Like they were seeing a ghost. An older woman behind the counter set down her coffee pot slowly. She was short, maybe 5'2", with silver hair pulled back in a braid. She wore a flour-dusted apron over jeans and a flannel shirt. Her eyes were blue-green, the color of shallow ocean water. Sweet Jesus, she breathed. You're Vivian's girl. I stood frozen in the doorway, every instinct screaming at me to run. But I didn't. I walked to the counter, slid onto a stool, and met her eyes. I'm Sarah, Sarah Whitlock. I know who you are, honey. Her voice cracked. I'm Marlo Thorne. I've owned this place for 37 years. Your grandmother was my best friend. She poured me coffee without asking, her hands trembling slightly. You look just like your mother. Same eyes, same way of holding your chin up when you're scared. You knew my mother, knew her baby. I was at your christening. I held you when you were 3 days old. Tears spilled down her weathered cheeks. We all thought you were dead. Vivian never believed it. She said she'd know in her bones if you were gone. We thought she was in denial, but she was right. God, she was right. Other people in the diner were openly staring now. A few were crying. Marlo wiped her eyes with her apron, tried to compose herself. Have you eaten? Let me make you breakfast. Proper breakfast. You're too thin. Before I could answer, she was moving, pulling out eggs, bacon bread, cooking with the efficiency of someone who'd done it 10,000 times. I sat at the counter and watched her work, this woman who'd known my mother, who'd held me as a baby. Another piece of a life I'd been stolen from. Dr. Carver came to see me this morning, I said quietly. Marlo's hand stilled. She turned slowly. What did he want? He says my grandmother owed money, $420,000. He wants to buy the house. The expression that crossed Marlo's face was pure fury. That lying son of a bitch. She said it loud enough that everyone in the diner heard. Nobody looked surprised. Vivian didn't owe him a goddamn penny. She paid cash for every treatment she ever had. I went with her to those appointments. I saw the receipts. She abandoned the stove, came around the counter, and sat on the stool next to mine. Listen to me, Sarah. Vincent Carver is a liar and a killer. Your grandmother spent the last 10 years of her life trying to prove it. He murdered your mother because she was going to expose what Meridian Biotech was doing, and he made you disappear so you couldn't be a witness. I was 6 months old. I couldn't have been a witness to anything. Doesn't matter. He was being thorough, tying up loose ends, and he's good at it. Your mother's death was ruled accidental. Your disappearance was never even investigated. He has connections, money, power. She gripped my hand. And now he's coming for the house because Vivian hid something there. Evidence. Proof of what he did. She told me before she died. She said if you ever came home, you'd find it, and you'd use it to bring him down. I swallowed hard against rising emotion. Where, where would she hide it? I don't know. She wouldn't tell me. Said it was safer if only you could find it, but she gave me something to give you. Marlo reached into her apron pocket and pulled out an old brass key, smaller than the house keys, tarnished with age. She said you'd know what it opens. Said to tell you, look where the light dies. I took the key. It was warm from being in her pocket, heavy for its size. I don't understand. Neither do I, honey, but Vivian was clever. She knew Carver might come after the house. She'd have hidden the evidence somewhere he wouldn't think to look. The door chimed. A man walked in, late 20s maybe, tall, lean, wearing work clothes dusted with sawdust, dark hair that curled at his collar. He had his mother's eyes. Marlo's face softened. Rowan, come meet Sarah. He crossed the diner in long strides, stopped in front of me, studied my face for a long moment. You look like your mother. His voice was quiet, rough from disuse, like he didn't talk much. She was kind to me when I was a kid. I'm sorry for what happened to her. Rowan's a carpenter, Marlo said. Best in 3 counties. He can help if you need work done on the house. I don't have money to pay anyone. I'm not asking for money. Rowan pulled out the stool on my other side, sat. Your grandmother helped my family when my father got sick, paid his medical bills when we couldn't, never asked for a cent back. I owe her. I owe you. I didn't know what to say. These people, strangers, an hour ago were offering help like it was natural, expected, like I was family. Maybe I was. Marlo returned to the stove, plated up eggs and bacon and toast, slid it in front of me. The smell made my stomach growl. Eat, she commanded. Then we'll figure out what to do about Carver. I ate while they talked. Marlo told me about my mother, how bright she'd been, how determined to make a difference, how she'd fallen in love with Harlow Bay the first time she'd visited. Rowan listened, mostly adding details here and there. He'd been 9 when my mother died, old enough to remember. She used to bring me books, he said, from the college library, science books way above what they had at school. She said I was smart enough to understand them if I tried. Were you, though? A small smile. Eventually. When I'd finished eating, Marlo poured more coffee. Vivian used to come in here every Sunday morning, sit in that booth by the window, write letters. For 18 years, every Sunday she'd write you a letter. And every Monday she'd go to the post office and try to mail it. And every time it came back, my chest tightened. She wrote them here. Some of them, the Sunday ones at least. She said it helped, being around people, feeling less alone. I imagined my grandmother sitting in that booth, writing to a granddaughter she couldn't find, week after week, year after year, never giving up. Did she ever talk about what my mother discovered about Meridian? Marlo's expression darkened. She glanced around the diner. The other customers had gone back to their meals, but she lowered her voice anyway. She said your mother found evidence of illegal experiments, testing drugs on people who hadn't consented, trying to develop something that could erase specific memories. Selective amnesia, she called it. Ice ran down my spine. Why would anyone want that? Think about it, Marlo said. Witnesses to crimes could have their memories erased. Victims of abuse could forget, or the reverse. Political enemies could have false memories implanted. It's worth billions to the right buyer. That's insane. That's science without ethics, and that's what Meridian was doing. Your mother was going to report them to the FBI. She had proof, documentation, test results, but she died before she could. What happened to the proof? Nobody knows. The police searched her apartment after her death. Found nothing. Either she hid it somewhere or someone got there first and destroyed it. Rowan spoke up quietly. Your grandmother thought Elena gave it to someone for safekeeping. Someone she trusted. But she never found out who. I thought about the key in my pocket. About Vivian's message look where the light dies. I need to get back to the house, I said. Start looking. I'll come with you, Rowan said. It wasn't a question. Marlowe nodded. Good. Carver's people have been watching that property since Vivian died. You shouldn't be alone. What people? Security guards, private investigators. He's had someone drive by every few days checking if anyone's moved in. Now that you're here, he'll be watching closer. The thought made my skin crawl, but I nodded. Rowan stood. I'll get my truck. We drove back to Blacktide House in silence. Rowan's truck was old, the bed filled with tools and lumber. He drove carefully, respecting the rough road. Thank you, I said, for helping. He glanced at me. Your grandmother kept this town together. When the fishing dried up and people were leaving, she bought the cannery building and turned it into workshops. Rented them cheap to craftsmen, artists, anyone who needed space. Kept maybe 50 families from having to move away. She did that kind of thing all the time. Never wanted credit. She sounds incredible. She was, and she loved you more than anything. Talked about you every time I saw her. My granddaughter, she'd say, like you were right there, like you just stepped out for a minute. The words caught before I could speak them. At the house, Rowan walked the perimeter while I went inside. I could see him through the windows, checking the doors on the boathouse, examining the foundation, looking for signs of tampering. I pulled out the brass key Marlowe had given me, turned it over in my palm. Look where the light dies. A riddle. My grandmother had loved them. Fletcher had mentioned it once, how she'd leave notes in crossword puzzles, hide birthday gifts with cryptic clues. I walked through the house slowly, thinking, where would light die? The basement. Underground. Dark. But the house didn't have a basement. I'd explored every room yesterday. I went outside, found Rowan examining the boathouse. Is there a basement? He shook his head. House is built on bedrock. Too hard to dig. What about the boathouse? Maybe. These old ones sometimes had storage cellars. Keep ice for fish. We crossed the wild grass together. Up close, the boathouse was bigger than I'd thought. 30 feet wide, maybe 40 deep. The doors were tall enough to allow a boat on a trailer through. The main door was unlocked. Inside smelled like salt and old wood and engine oil, empty boat slips, a workbench covered in dust, windows high up letting in weak light, and in the back corner, partially hidden by stacked lobster traps, a wooden hatch in the floor. Rowan saw it the same time I did. We crossed to it together. He pulled the traps aside, revealing the hatch fully. It had an old iron ring for a handle and a keyhole that looked about the right size. I pulled out the brass key. My fingers trembled against the cold metal. It slid into the lock smoothly, turned with a click that echoed in the empty space. Rowan lifted the hatch. Hinges screamed. Below was darkness and a ladder descending into it. I'll go first, he said. No, My voice was firm. This is mine. My grandmother left this for me. I didn't give him time to argue. I climbed onto the ladder and started down. The rungs were old but solid. 10 feet, 12, 15. My feet touched earth. Rowan passed down a flashlight from his truck. I clicked it on. The beam revealed a small room, maybe 10 feet by 10 feet, stone walls, dirt floor. The air was cold and dry, and against one wall was a metal filing cabinet, a wooden crate, and a leather bag. Sarah, Rowan's voice from above. You okay? I found it. I found what she hid. I crossed to the filing cabinet first. 3 drawers. I pulled open the top one. Files, dozens of them, all labeled, all organized. Project Tidebreak, overview. Project Tidebreak, test subjects. Project Tidebreak, mortality reports. I steadied myself against the cabinet as my vision swam. Page after page of documentation. Scientific reports, medical records, photographs. The photographs made me sick. People strapped to chairs, electrodes on their heads, eyes vacant. Some of them were clearly homeless. Others looked like they might be psychiatric patients. None of them looked like they'd consented to anything. Test subjects, the reports called them. Case numbers instead of names. I opened the second drawer. Internal communications, financial records, deceased personnel. That last file was thick. I pulled it out, flipped it open. A list of names, 38 of them, each one with a date and a cause of death. Dr. Robert Ashford, cardiac arrest, March 2009. Dr. Lisa Monroe, car accident, July 2010. James Hartley, drowning, November 2011. On and on. All of them had worked for Meridian. All of them had died within 10 years of my mother. And at the bottom of the list in my grandmother's handwriting, Dr. Elena Whitlock. Boat accident, August 2006. Murdered to prevent exposure. They killed them all. The third drawer held audio cassettes. Labeled by date, I pulled one out at random. Interview, subject 47, post-treatment. I looked in the wooden crate, an old cassette player, battery-powered. I loaded the tape, pressed play. A woman's voice, slurred and confused. Where am I? Who are you? A man's voice, clinical, cold. What's your name? I should know that. Why don't I know that? Do you remember the assault? What assault? I don't understand. Good. Memory erasure successful. Subject 47 shows complete amnesia for traumatic event and 24 hours preceding. Proceeding to next phase. I ejected the tape bile rising in my throat. They'd done it. Actually done it. Erased memories from living human beings, without consent. Probably without even telling them what was being done. The leather bag was last. I unzipped it carefully. Inside were more cassettes, but these were labeled differently. Dr. Elena Whitlock testimony. My mother's voice. I loaded the first tape. Press play. My name is Dr. Elena Whitlock. I am a neurologist employed by Meridian Biotech. This recording is being made on July 18, 2006 as insurance in case something happens to me. On her voice. My mother's voice. I'd never heard it before. It was warm, strong, a little hoarse like she'd been crying. For the past 3 years, I have been documenting illegal human experimentation being conducted under the direction of Dr. Vincent Carver. Project Tidebreak is a memory manipulation program that has been tested on over 200 subjects without their knowledge or consent. She detailed everything: dates, subjects, results, deaths that had been covered up. Carver has connections in law enforcement, in government. He's paid off medical examiners, bribed officials. Anyone who threatens to expose the program ends up dead. It's always an accident, always plausible. But there have been 14 deaths in 3 years. That's not coincidence. Her voice cracked. I have a daughter, Sarah. She's 6 months old. I'm terrified of what will happen when I report this. But I can't let it continue. These are human beings, people who trusted doctors to help them. Instead, we're destroying their minds. I'm giving copies of all evidence to Fletcher Callahan, my attorney. If something happens to me, he'll know what to do. And I'm leaving this recording where my mother can find it. Vivian, if you're hearing this, I'm sorry. I love you. Tell Sarah I love her. Tell her I tried to do the right thing. The tape ended. I stood in the darkness holding the cassette player, tears streaming down my face. My mother had known, had documented everything, had died trying to stop it. And my grandmother had spent 18 years collecting more evidence, adding to what Elena had left, building an airtight case against Carver. All of it hidden here, waiting for me. I loaded another tape. This one was labeled Vivian Whitlock. Final message, my grandmother's voice frail but determined. Sarah, my darling girl, if you're hearing this, you found your way home. I'm so sorry I couldn't find you first. So sorry you grew up alone. She paused. I could hear her breathing, ragged and weak. Everything you need is here. Evidence of every crime Carver committed, every death, every illegal experiment. I couldn't get it to the authorities myself. He's too connected, too protected. But you can. You're young, unknown. He won't see you coming. Another pause. There's a man you need to find. Special Agent Daniel Brooks, FBI. He's been investigating Meridian for years. He's clean, not on Carver's payroll. Your mother was going to him when she died. He's still looking for proof. Give him this evidence. He'll know what to do. Her voice grew softer. I love you, Sarah. Your mother loved you. We never gave up, never stopped fighting for you. And now if you choose, you can finish what we started. But be careful, sweet girl. Carver is dangerous. He's killed so many. Don't let him take you too. The tape clicked off. I stood in the silence for a long moment. Then I climbed the ladder. Rowan was waiting at the top, his face tense with concern. What did you find? Everything. Evidence of murder. Illegal experiments. All of it. His expression hardened. What do you need? Help carrying it up. Then I need to make a phone call. We spent the next hour hauling everything from the cellar. The files, the cassettes, the photographs. all of it organized carefully in the living room. When it was done, Rowan stood looking at the mountain of evidence. This is enough to put him away forever. If we can get it to the right person. I found the business card Fletcher had given me. Called his cell. He answered on the second ring. Sarah, are you all right? I found it. Everything my grandmother hid. Evidence of everything Carver did. But I need your help. I need to contact someone in the FBI. An agent named Daniel Brooks. There was a long pause. How do you know about Brooks? My grandmother left a message. She said he's been investigating Meridian. Said he's clean. He is. I know him. He came to see Vivian twice. She wouldn't give him what she had. Said it was too dangerous. That she'd only release it if she found you first so you'd be protected. Will you call him, tell him I have what he needs? I'll do better. I'll bring him to you. Don't leave the house. Don't answer the door for anyone else. I'll be there in 3 hours. He hung up. Rowan looked at me. You okay? No, but I'm going to be. He nodded. I'll stay until they get here. Make sure nobody bothers you. Marlo arrived an hour later with food, soup and bread and pie. Enough for an army. Heard you found something, she said, setting bags on the kitchen counter. Whole town's talking. Carver's security drove by the house twice in the last hour. Let them watch, I said. By tonight, this will all be over. She hugged me, hard, like she'd known me my whole life. Vivian would be so proud of you. I haven't done anything yet. You came home. You didn't run. That's everything. We ate together, the three of us sitting at the kitchen table. Marlo told stories about my mother, about my grandmother, about a life I should have had. Rowan mostly listened, but once when Marlo mentioned how Elena used to sing while she cooked, he said quietly, You have her voice, the cadence. I noticed it this morning. I didn't know what to say to that. Didn't know how to hold all these pieces of people I'd never known, but was somehow made from. At 4:30, car doors slammed outside. We all tensed, but through the window I saw Fletcher climbing out of his sedan, and with him a man in his late 50s wearing a FBI windbreaker, Special Agent Daniel Brooks. I opened the door before they knocked. Brooks was tall, gray-haired, with the hard eyes of someone who'd seen too much. But when he looked at me, they softened. Miss Whitlock, I've been waiting 18 years for this conversation. We sat in the living room. Brooks took in the mountain of evidence with an expression I couldn't read. Vivian wouldn't give this to me, he said quietly. She didn't trust that I could protect you if Carver found out you existed. She was probably right. But now I'm here, and I'm giving it to you. He nodded slowly. Walk me through it. Everything you found. I did. Showed him the files, played him the tapes, laid out the evidence of 38 murders, over 200 illegal test subjects, millions in bribes. His expression grew darker with every page. When I finished, he sat back. This is enough, more than enough. We can get warrants within hours. Arrest Carver tonight. He came to see me this morning, I said. Tried to buy the property. Said my grandmother owed money. Brooks's jaw tightened. He's trying to get access to the house. He must suspect evidence is here. The fact that he's moving this fast means he's scared. Good, I said. He should be. Brooks stood, pulled out his phone. I'm calling my team. We'll need to secure all of this as evidence. I'll have agents here within 2 hours. He stepped outside to make calls. Fletcher put his hand over mine. Your grandmother spent 10 years building this case. Your mother died trying to expose him. You're finishing what they started. I know. And you understand that once this starts, Carver will know it was you. He'll know you gave the FBI this evidence. I understand. And you're not afraid. I thought about my mother dead at 32. About my grandmother searching until her heart gave out. About 18 years stolen from me. I'm terrified, I said, but I'm doing it anyway. Marlo squeezed my shoulder. Rowan met my eyes and nodded. These strangers who'd become family in less than 24 hours. Brooks came back inside. So we're on the way. But Sarah, there's something you need to know. We've been building a case against Meridian for years. But Carver's careful. Every witness died before testifying. Every document we tried to obtain disappeared. We had suspicions, patterns, circumstantial evidence, but nothing concrete enough for warrants. Until now, your grandmother's files are ironclad, physical evidence he can't explain away. This is what we've been waiting for. Once we move on, Carver, this becomes public. Your identity, your connection to Elena and Vivian. The media will descend. Your life will change. My life already changed yesterday when I walked through that door. He studied me for a long moment, then smiled. Small, sad. You have your mother's courage. She'd be proud. Outside, the sun was setting. The ocean turned gold and orange, beautiful and terrible. By morning, Vincent Carver would be in custody. The truth about Meridian would be exposed. Justice delayed for 18 years would finally come. I walked out onto the porch, looked down at the water crashing against the rocks. My grandmother had stood here. My mother had stood here. Both of them fighting, both of them losing. But they'd made sure I could win. I pulled the last letter from my pocket, the one Vivian had written 3 months before she died. Read the last lines again. Be strong, sweet girl. Be brave. And know that you were loved every moment of your life. I'll be strong, I whispered to the wind. I promise. I'll finish this. Behind me inside my house, federal agents would soon be cataloging evidence. Fletcher was making calls. Marlowe was making coffee. Rowan was standing guard. My family. Chosen and given. Connected by loss and love and the determination to make things right. Tomorrow the world would know the truth. Tonight I stood on my porch and watched the light die over the ocean. And I was not afraid. The FBI agents arrived as darkness settled over Black Tide House. 3 black SUVs, their headlights cutting through the gathering fog. I watched from the porch as they filed out. 8 agents, all business, all focused. Special Agent Brooks directed them with quiet efficiency. 2 agents began photographing the evidence exactly as we'd arranged it. 2 more started cataloging files. The others secured the perimeter, checking the boathouse, the grounds, making sure we were alone. Miss Whitlock, a woman agent approached me, mid-40s, sharp eyes, kind face. I'm Agent Torres. I'll be taking your statement. Is there somewhere we can talk privately? We sat in the kitchen. She set up a recording device, asked permission to use it. I agreed. For the next 2 hours, I told her everything. Waking up at St. Catherine's with no family, the phone call from Fletcher, finding the house, the letters, Carver's visit, the evidence hidden in the boathouse cellar. She took notes, asked clarifying questions, never rushed me. When I finished, she turned off the recorder and looked at me with something like awe. Your grandmother was brilliant. This evidence is ironclad. Chain of custody is questionable in court, but combined with what we already have, it's more than enough for arrests. Tonight, Brooks is getting warrants right now. By midnight, we'll have Carver in custody. I clutched my hands together in my lap, knuckles white. What happens to me? You'll need protection, at least for a few days. Once Carver's arrested, it'll be all over the news. Your identity will come out. There may be media attention. I don't care about that. You should. This is a big story. Orphan returns home, exposes murder conspiracy, brings down major corporation. The networks will eat it up. I thought about that. About my face on television. My name in newspapers. The privacy I'd never had becoming even more impossible. Will I be safe? We'll make sure of it. Fletcher appeared in the doorway. Sarah, Agent Brooks wants to speak with you. I found Brooks in the living room, surrounded by evidence boxes the agents had packed. He looked exhausted but energized. We have the warrants. Judge signed them 20 minutes ago. We're moving on Carver's residence now, on Meridian headquarters in Boston, on 4 other executives, all simultaneous arrests. That fast? We've been building a case for years. Your evidence connects everything. Financial crimes, human rights violations, murder, conspiracy. The charges list is 3 pages long. He pulled out his phone, showed me a photo. Vincent Carver's driver's license. That same cold smile. When we arrest him, he's going to know you gave us this. He'll know you're Elena's daughter, Vivian's granddaughter. You understand that? Yes. And you're prepared for what comes next. I thought about the question. Was I prepared? I was 18. I'd been out of St. Catherine's for 3 days. I owned a house I didn't know how to maintain, land I'd never walked, and enough trauma for a lifetime. But I also had evidence that could bring down a killer. A community that had embraced me, and the memory of 2 women who'd never stopped fighting. I'm ready. Brooks nodded. Good. Stay here tonight. We'll have agents outside. Don't answer the door for anyone except law enforcement. Tomorrow we'll figure out next steps. He left with most of the agents. 2 remained behind. A man and a woman, both young, both armed. They positioned themselves on the porch and in the kitchen, watching, protecting. Marlowe refused to leave. I'm staying the night. You shouldn't be alone. Rowan hesitated at the door. I'll be at my workshop if you need anything. 10 minutes away. Thank you. The words felt inadequate for everything he'd done. for all of it. He met my eyes. Your grandmother helped raise me when my dad got sick, taught me carpentry, gave me purpose. This is me paying it forward. After he left, Marlo made tea. We sat at the kitchen table, not talking much, just being present, the way family does. At 11:40, Brooks called. We have him. Carver's in custody. Found him trying to load boxes into his car. Looks like he was planning to run. Relief flooded through me so powerfully I had to sit down. What happens now? Arraignment tomorrow. He'll be denied bail. Too much flight risk, too many charges. Then it's a matter of building the prosecution case. With your evidence and what we already have, it's open and shut. Can I be there at the arraignment? I wouldn't recommend it. Media will be there. You'll be photographed, identified. Are you ready for that? I looked around my grandmother's kitchen, at Marlo sitting across from me, at the house that had waited 18 years for me to come home. Yes, I want to see his face when they read the charges. All right, I'll arrange it. 10 a.m. at the federal courthouse in Portland. I'll have agents escort you. After we hung up, I finally let myself cry. Not from sadness, from release, from the weight of 18 years lifting. Marlo held me while I sobbed, stroked my hair, whispered the things grandmothers say. It's over, sweetheart. It's finally over. I barely slept. When I did, I dreamed of my mother, of a woman I'd never known, but was somehow part of me. In the dream, she was standing on the beach below the house, looking out at the ocean. When she turned, she had my face. I woke at dawn. Marlo was already up making coffee, scrambling eggs. The agents outside had changed shifts. New faces, same watchfulness. Big day, Marlo said, sliding the plate in front of me. Eat. You'll need your strength. At 9, an unmarked FBI car arrived. Agent Torres drove. Brooks sat passenger. I climbed in back. The drive to Portland took an hour. Torres briefed me on what to expect. Crowd control, metal detectors. Carver would be brought in through a separate entrance. He wouldn't see me unless he looked up at the gallery. And he will look, Brooks said. Men like Carver always do. They need to see who beat them. The federal courthouse was imposing. Gray stone, tall columns. Media vans already lined the street. We entered through a side door. Security swept us through. Brooks led me to the courtroom up to the public gallery. The room was already filling. Journalists, sketch artists, people I didn't recognize. I sat in the back row, Torres beside me. At exactly 10, the bailiff called for order. A door opened. Vincent Carver walked in. He wore an orange jumpsuit, handcuffs, leg shackles. His silver hair was disheveled. His face was pale, but his expression was still arrogant, still certain he'd find a way out. His attorney sat beside him, expensive suit, aggressive posture, ready to fight. The judge entered. We all stood. She was a black woman in her 60s with steel gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. United States versus Vincent Carver. Case number OCR 8847. The prosecutor stood. Young woman, sharp, prepared. Your Honor, the United States charges the defendant with 43 counts, including conspiracy to commit murder, 18 counts of first-degree murder, unlawful human experimentation, wire fraud, racketeering, obstruction of justice, and witness tampering. The courtroom erupted in murmurs. The judge banged her gavel. Carver's face had gone white. His attorney was frantically flipping through papers. How does the defendant plead? Carver's attorney stood. Not guilty to all charges, Your Honor, and we request reasonable bail. Dr. Carver is a respected member of the community with no criminal record. No criminal record we could prove until yesterday, the prosecutor interrupted. Your Honor, the defendant is an extreme flight risk. He was apprehended while attempting to flee the jurisdiction with evidence he intended to destroy. He has significant financial resources and international connections. The government requests he be held without bail. The judge looked at Carver. Really looked. Like she could see through the suit and the smile to the man underneath. Dr. Carver, you're charged with 18 murders. The evidence presented suggests a pattern of behavior spanning 2 decades. Bail is denied. You'll remain in federal custody pending trial. The gavel came down. That's when Carver turned, scanned the gallery, looking for someone to blame, someone to focus his rage on. His eyes found mine. I watched recognition hit him. Watched him see Elena's daughter, Vivian's granddaughter, the girl who should have disappeared 18 years ago, the girl who'd destroyed him instead. I didn't look away, didn't flinch, held his gaze until he was the one who turned. As they led him out, shackled and defeated, I felt something settle in my chest. Not quite peace, but close. Justice. Delayed but delivered. The media found me as we left the courthouse. Cameras, microphones, questions shouted from every direction. Miss Whitlock, did you know your mother was murdered? How does it feel to expose Meridian? What will you do with your grandmother's property? Torres and Brooks flanked me, clearing a path to the car, but I stopped, turned to face them. Brooks tensed. Sir, you don't have to. I want to. I stepped up to the microphones. Cameras clicked. Recording lights glowed red. My name is Sarah Whitlock. I'm 18 years old. 3 days ago, I learned I had a family. A mother who was murdered trying to expose illegal experiments. A grandmother who spent 18 years searching for me after I was stolen from a hospital as a baby. My voice was steady, stronger than I felt. Vincent Carver took everything from me. My mother, my grandmother, 18 years of my life. He did it to protect Meridian Biotech's illegal operations. And he did it to 42 other families. People who lost loved ones. People who were experimented on without consent. People who deserve justice. I pulled the photo from my pocket, the one of my mother holding me, showed it to the cameras. This is Dr. Elena Whitlock. She was brilliant, brave, and she died trying to do the right thing. My grandmother, Vivian Whitlock, never gave up trying to find me, never stopped collecting evidence. They couldn't finish this fight, but I can, and I will. I lowered the photo. To the other families affected by Meridian, I'm sorry for what you lost. I'm sorry it took so long, but it's over now. He's going to pay for what he did. They all are. I stepped back. Torres guided me to the car. As we pulled away, I looked back at the crowd of reporters already typing on phones, broadcasting my face across the country. Let them. Let everyone know. Let Carver rot in prison knowing that Elena's daughter survived. That Vivian's granddaughter came home. That he lost. The next week was a blur. More FBI interviews, depositions, meetings with prosecutors building the case. Media requests I declined through Brooks. But between all of it, I started to build a life. Rowan came every morning, showed me how to maintain the property, how to fix the boathouse doors, how to winterize the house before the season turned. We worked in comfortable silence, his hands teaching mine the skills I'd need. Marlowe brought food daily, taught me my grandmother's recipes, told me stories until I felt like I'd known Vivian my whole life instead of only through letters. Fletcher helped me navigate the legal complexities of inheritance, setting up accounts, understanding taxes, making sure everything was secure. And slowly people from town started coming by. The postmaster who'd processed 263 returned letters. The librarian who'd helped Vivian research. The doctor who'd treated her cancer. The teacher who'd taught my mother. One by one they came. Brought stories. Shared memories. Welcomed me home. 6 days after Carver's arrest, a woman knocked on my door. 60 years old. Tired eyes. Hands that wouldn't stop trembling. Miss Whitlock, my name is Patricia Ashford. My son Robert was a doctor at Meridian. He died 12 years ago. They said it was a heart attack. He was 34, healthy. I never believed it. I'd seen his name on the list. Dr. Robert Ashford, March 2009. I'm so sorry. Don't be sorry. Her voice cracked. Because of you, I finally know the truth. Because of you, the man who killed my son is in prison. Because of you, Robert's name will be cleared. He tried to expose Meridian. He died because he was brave, and now the world will know that. She hugged me, held on tight. Thank you. Thank you for not running. Thank you for fighting. After she left, I stood on the porch and cried, because I understood then what this meant. Not just justice for my family, but for 42 families. Closure they'd been denied for decades. My mother and grandmother had started this fight, but it was bigger than us now. That evening, I drove to Oak Hill Cemetery, the old graveyard on a hill overlooking the bay. Headstones worn smooth by wind and weather. I found them easily, side by side under an oak tree. Vivian Margaret Whitlock, 1938-2024. She never stopped searching. She never stopped loving. Elena Rose Whitlock, 1974-2006, beloved daughter. Brilliant mind, brave heart. I knelt between the graves, ran my fingers over the carved letters. I did it, I whispered. He's going to prison. All of them are. Everyone's going to know what you tried to do, what you sacrificed. The wind picked up, rustled through the oak leaves, almost like an answer. I wish I'd known you. Wish I had memories instead of letters. But I'm grateful for the letters, for the evidence, for the house, for everything you left me. I pulled the box from my bag, all 263 letters. carefully preserved in plastic sleeves now. I'm going to keep these forever. Read them to my children someday. Make sure your story doesn't get forgotten. I placed flowers on both graves. Wildflowers from the property. The kind my mother had loved, Marlo said. I'm home now, I'm staying, and I'm going to make you proud. I sat there until the sun set, until the sky turned orange and purple and finally dark, until the stars came out over the ocean. When I finally stood to leave, I felt lighter, like I'd set something down I'd been carrying too long. At the cemetery gate, Rowan was waiting, leaning against his truck. Thought you might want company on the drive back. I smiled. Yeah, I would. We drove in silence, but it was comfortable, easy, the kind of quiet you can only have with someone who understands. At the house, he walked me to the door. Rowan, why are you really helping me? I know what you said about my grandmother, but this is more than that. And he was quiet for a long time. Then when I was 14, my mom got sick. Lupus. Bad. We couldn't afford treatment. Dad was fishing, but it wasn't enough. We were going to lose the house. He looked out at the dark ocean. Vivian found out, showed up one day with a check, $20,000. Paid for a year of treatment, saved my mom's life. When Dad tried to pay her back, she refused. Said family helps family. But you weren't family. We are now. That's how it works here. You help when help's needed. You show up. You don't keep score. He met my eyes. You're one of us, Sarah. Whether you've been here 3 days or 30 years, you're home. Something warm spread through my chest. Belonging. Actual, real belonging. Thank you. Get some rest. Tomorrow we're fixing the dock. It's about to fall into the ocean. I watched him drive away, then went inside my house, my home. In the kitchen, I made tea, sat at the table where my grandmother had sat thousands of times, where my mother had sat before her. The house creaked and settled around me. No longer empty, no longer waiting. I pulled out my laptop, opened a new document. For weeks, the story had been told by others, reporters, prosecutors, FBI press releases. But they didn't know what it felt like, didn't know the truth beyond the facts. I started typing. I stood at the iron gates of St. Catherine's Home for Girls for the last time my entire life compressed into a canvas duffel bag that had seen better days. 6 months later, everything had changed. The trial was over. Carver convicted on 39 counts, sentenced to 8 consecutive life terms without possibility of parole. 17 other Meridian executives received sentences ranging from 15 years to life. The company itself was dissolved, assets seized, used to compensate the families of victims. Patricia Ashford and I testified. So did 12 other family members. We told our stories, spoke for the dead, made sure the jury understood the human cost. When the verdict came back, the courtroom erupted. People wept, hugged, held each other. Justice. Finally. The media attention lasted about 6 weeks, then faded. Other stories replaced ours. The news cycle moved on, but the work didn't stop. I'd used some of my grandmother's money to establish a foundation, the Vivian and Elena Whitlock Center for Truth and Justice, housed in my grandmother's old cannery building in town. We helped families who suspected corporate wrongdoing, connected them with lawyers, investigators, journalists, gave them resources to fight back. Marlo ran the office. Fletcher provided legal advice. Brooks, retired from the FBI, now consulted on investigations. And Rowan built the furniture, the desks, the shelves, made the space feel warm and welcoming. We'd helped 47 families in 6 months. Some cases went nowhere, but some like ours cracked open corruption that had festered for years. Black Tide House had been transformed too. The boathouse was now a workshop where Rowan taught carpentry to kids from town. The barn held equipment for community use. The land was open to anyone who needed space to think, to heal. And the house itself had become something I never expected. A home, not just for me, but for anyone who needed one. 3 teenagers from difficult situations were living in the spare bedrooms now. Learning skills, getting counseling, being part of something safe. Marlo called it a halfway house. I called it family. On a warm April morning, I stood in the cemetery again. This time with dozens of others. We'd raised money for a memorial, a stone wall with 43 names, every victim of Meridian's crimes, every person who died trying to expose the truth. The dedication ceremony was simple. No politicians, no speeches, just families reading names. lighting candles, remembering. When it was my turn, I read the two names I knew best. There's Helena Whitlock, my mother, who chose truth over safety, who died protecting others. I moved to the second name, Vivian Whitlock, my grandmother, who never gave up, who loved a granddaughter she couldn't find for 18 years, who left me everything I needed to finish what she started. I stepped back. Rowan was beside me. He took my hand. Around us, other families read names, told stories, wept and laughed and honored the dead. After there was food, music. The community gathering to celebrate life after so much death. Patricia Ashford found me in the crowd. "I'm going back to college," she said. Her eyes were brighter than the first time we'd met. "Social work. I want to help other families. Like you helped me." "That's wonderful. It's because of you. Because you showed me that even when the powerful win for a while, they don't win forever. Truth has a way of surviving." She hugged me. "Thank you, Sarah, for everything." As the sun set over the memorial, I found myself alone for a moment, looking at my mother's name, my grandmother's name, two women I'd never really known, but who'd shaped everything I'd become. "I'm okay," I told them. Told the wind, told the ocean. "Better than okay. I'm home. I'm doing good work. I'm not alone anymore. And I understand now. What you tried to tell me in all those letters, love doesn't end. It persists, even across death, even across 18 years of silence. I feel you both. In this place, in this work, in who I'm becoming. Thank you for fighting for me, for never giving up, for leaving me the truth. I'll make sure it matters, I promise." Rowan appeared beside me, didn't say anything, just stood there, solid, present. "Ready to go home?" he asked. Home. The word didn't hurt anymore. Didn't feel foreign or impossible. "Yeah, let's go home." We drove back to Black Tide House as the last light faded from the sky. The white house with the blue roof glowed in the dusk, lights on in every window. Inside, the teenagers were making dinner. Marlo was setting the table. Fletcher had stopped by with fresh bread. Family, not the one I was born to, but the one I'd found, the one that had found me. That night, after everyone had gone to bed, I sat on the porch with a cup of tea, listening to the ocean, watching stars appear. I thought about the girl who'd stood at the gates of St. Catherine's, who'd believed she was unwanted, who'd had $73 and no future. She was gone now, replaced by someone stronger, braver, more sure. I thought about the 263 letters, each one a lifeline thrown across impossible distance, each one proof that love can survive anything. And I thought about the work ahead, the families still suffering, the truth still buried, the justice still waiting. It would never be finished. Not really. There would always be more to do. But that was okay, because I wasn't alone anymore. I had a home, a family, a purpose, and I had the memory of two extraordinary women who'd refused to let me disappear. I pulled out my phone, opened the document I'd been writing, the story of everything that had happened. I'd been approached by publishers, agents, people who wanted to turn my story into a book, a movie, something commercial. I'd said no to all of them. This story wasn't for sale. It was for the families, for the people who needed to know that fighting back was possible, that justice could happen, that truth mattered. I would finish writing it, publish it myself, give it away for free. Let it be a roadmap for others, a reminder that even the powerful can fall. Even the voiceless can be heard. I typed the final lines. "My name is Sarah Whitlock. I'm 18 years old. 6 months ago, I had nothing. No family, no home, no future. Today, I have everything that matters. I have a home in Harlow Bay, Maine. I have a community that chose me. I have work that honors the women who fought for me. And I have 263 letters, proof that I was loved, proof that I was never forgotten, proof that some bonds can't be broken even by death. Vincent Carver tried to erase me. He failed. My mother and grandmother tried to protect me. They succeeded. And now I'm doing what they couldn't, living, thriving, helping others find their truth. This is my story, but it's also theirs and yours. Anyone who's ever been told they don't matter. Anyone who's ever fought against impossible odds. Anyone who's ever loved someone they couldn't reach. Love persists. Truth survives. Justice comes. Sometimes it takes 18 years. Sometimes it takes 263 letters. Sometimes it takes a girl who refused to disappear. But it comes. I promise you it comes. I saved the document, closed my laptop. Tomorrow I'd keep writing, keep fighting, keep building something worth the sacrifice my family had made. But tonight I sat on my porch, in my home, under stars that had watched my grandmother write letters for 18 years, stars that had seen my mother's last sunset, stars that were witnessing my first chapter. The ocean roared below, the house creaked behind me. Somewhere inside, teenagers who'd been lost were finding their way. And I smiled because I was home, because I was loved, because I had finally impossibly miraculously found my way back to where I belonged. The wind picked up, carrying salt and pine and the promise of morning. I whispered to it, to the darkness, to the memory of two women who'd never stopped fighting. I'm home, grandmother. I'm home, mom, and I'm never leaving again. The stars kept shining, the ocean kept crashing, and somewhere in the darkness I felt them. Vivian and Elena, proud, at peace, home.